Hello, how are we doing tonight? Well, come on in. Season 5 continues with round number 6. We are in Imola. As you can see, 17 strong. How are we? All dry, thank you, Greg. Very much appreciated. Q1 is just get underway, but no one out on track yet. I'm just writing something, and then we'll get some stuff on the screen for you. Good evening to everyone in the chat. Hope you're all doing really, really well. Evening to TD. Evening to Aya. Evening to Greg, Josh, and one of the newest members of our league, Veloce Dragon. Hope you're well, mate. Dub. Thank you. Right back at you, Josh. People already out on track. Evening, Novitek. I was going to call you Novi then. On Tuesday night we have a new member who's joined called Novi, or Novi, and did very well, scored in the points on his debut on Tuesday night. So we've got a Novi and we've got Novitek. That's going to get confusing. Musicov, thank you. I am not quite with it today. So Camper kicking us off. Interesting, very interesting, isn't it, I would say? One of my favourite tracks. I may not be great at this track, but certainly if you can nail a lap here in Imola, you will feel like a driving god. Insert that Richard Hammond gif. If you know it, you know it. The new Italian car pack in Forza Horizon 5 is very sick. I have not played that game in a while. I'm waiting for the new Forza Motorsport though. Can't wait for it. Should be on Game Pass immediately, so you don't even have to pay for it. Well, you do for Game Pass, but beside the point. Camper sets us off with a 15.7. What about his teammate then? Asthma Frog, 2 debutants out on track. Avenicus, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, in the Mercedes car. And Go-Go Assassin, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'll be surprised if I'm not. In the Aston Martin. Avenicus, 14.9, currently the quickest time out there. Asthma Frog. That one didn't quite count. So we'll go again. Mr. Imola himself, IIRL J, is out on track. He's probably the most successful driver at Imola in our league. Definitely one of the most successful, I would say. Maybe not the successful one, but certainly one to watch out for this evening. In case you're new around here, we are IIRL. We race and stream 3 times a week. Tuesday night we have our No Assist here, where we already saw a race on Tuesday night. That is on our channel that you can watch on Twitch or our YouTube channel. The link will be in the chat. Automatically updates in the chat as well, so you don't even need to find it. You can just scroll for it. Thursday is Assist Tier 1. All of these drivers can run some assists, not all of them of course, but a select few. The most common ones, Racing Line, ABS, possibly a bit of traction control here and there as well. Asthma Frog splits the 2 debutants, Avenicus and Assassin, who has done a 15.6 on his first competitive time in the league. And there's a bit of lag from Mr. Padge, it would seem. I assume he's not taking the lines into the corner where he's on the grass. I assume he's not doing that. Just a bit loud on board. Okie doke. I'll try not to go on board as much. Hop that down a little bit. There you go. Sunday nights will be Assist Tier 2. That is coming up on Sunday night, 7:30 PM GMT on this very channel. A whole new set of drivers fighting to see who will get pole position, the race win, and a cheeky podium and points finishes up for grabs as well. Padge 16.0 on his first attempt. What about IIRL J. That is on the mediums, and that is invalidated. So he will go again. He's got enough battery to go on board to go for another lap afterwards, and hopefully for us he can get this one cleanly on the board. Next week, I'll say it a few times tonight, just in case people filter into the stream at different times. Next week we will be in Monaco for round number 7. Loche Dragon has split the 2 McLarens on a 15-3 on his first or her professional IRL debut. Of course, apologies if I get some pronouns or whatever wrong for new people. Please feel free to correct me in the chat if I have said something you're not comfortable with. Where's Felix? Felix cannot make it tonight. Same with CTFD. I know they talk a lot together, so maybe they're both busy. Who knows? Yeah, Salty Stevens. You'll probably know him as Mason. So change the gamer tag there. Ross into the pits. Aya has invalidated. What about Mr. Wiggles? He's out there on the medium compound. Probably best if we pop that up. Snacks has done a 16.4 on the mediums. 1.5 seconds off the quickest time so far. The top 6 are all back in the pits. Josh Aya's back into the pits as well as Ross. Both Red Bulls, I don't think, have been out on track yet. Snacks has just popped in there with an improved 15.0 on the mediums. Not too bad at all, as Killian does a 14.9 and goes quicker than Venicus. What do we think cutoff will be? I have no idea. I can tell you when my thing loads that the qualifying record is a 14.0. So safe to assume maybe the cutoff for Q2 might be around the 14.9, maybe 15.0. Maybe for Q1 it's a mid 15. Maybe that's what we're kind of expecting. But who really knows? No more roasting. Exactly. 1010, who holds the quali record, set it on Tuesday night, does a 14.6. Wiggles has done a 15.1, which is not too bad at all on the medium compound tyre, only a tenth and a bit away from Snacks. Smaller Smiley's banker of a 16.3 won't get him through. Well, May's in P12 at the moment, but safe to assume Josh, George, Deflated, Ross, I could probably beat that medium lap time, so Smiley will need to go again or try and get a better lap time on those mediums. Yeah, chat. Thoughts of this track? What do we think of it? Is it difficult? Is it not so difficult? Do you enjoy it? Let us know. George Plaster has well, plastered the track with his rubber, and he's gone quickest in Q1. 14.4, safe to say that will put George through. I think everyone in the 14s in Q1 probably through, as a rough immediate prediction. Novatech thinks this track is terrible. Salty Steven. Do you want me to call you Stevens or Salty Stevens? Because I don't want to call you Salty. It sounds like I'm insulting you. Insulting. Oh, that's an accidental pun there. Apologies, chat. 1010 has retired in the pits, and safe to assume he'll be comfortable. 14.9 on the mediums for Josh, so picking up where he left off. He hasn't had as much success this season so far as he has the previous 2 seasons in the opening 5 rounds. So Josh will be hoping for a win tonight. Should be scrapped? What do you mean should be scrapped? It's not that bad. As I say, I think it's one of my favourite tracks to drive. I haven't tried it with no ABS yet. I may change my mind before Sunday is over. Killian's called it quits. Should be through on that 14.9. iRush J 14.7. Tent behind his teammates. Yes, you have seen that right. 1010 and Russ are now teammates, full-time teammates in AT1 in the Haas team. Could be a very strong constructors push for the Haas team this season. I know we're 5 rounds in. Deflated does a 14.4. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Obviously, he'll be frustrated to be just behind George once again. It's happened way too many times this season, I'm sure, for Deflated's liking. So cut-off time at the moment is a 15.641, which is held by 2 drivers, GoGo Assassin and Ayahuasca. Padge and Smaller in the drop zone as things stand, but Smaller Smiley has yet to set a time on soft compound, so may jump up out of that bottom 2 if he gets a decent lap time in on the softs. I hope it's raining too much on Sunday so we can't race like real life. Gosh. I don't know about you, Novoset, but I enjoy wet weather driving, but I've had enough of the wet weather in 82. We'll go on board then with Assassin. As I say, he's got that buffer that even though that is the time to beat, he's got an extra position to safety at the moment. But I'm sure GoGo Assassin will be hoping for a much quicker lap time than what he's previously done. And that is just over the white line of track limits there. Just a tiny bit of understeer on the way in. And that is all she wrote for that attempt. Still enough time for Assassin to go again. But he will need to go get a move on. Lotchi has called it quits. Asthma Frog, the lowest driver so far in the standings to call it quits from the session earlier. TD, I hate countryside service. Whereabouts are you? TD can't make it tonight. Smaller Smiley has, as you can see, swapped out the mediums for the soft compounds, matching his beautiful red and black striped Alfa Romeo. And he's half a second up through the middle. Needs a bit more than that if he wants to beat Aya's 15.6. So needs a good last sector here, Smaller Smiley. Needs, I'd say, around another 2 tenths at least in this final sector if he wants to get into the top 15. And it's P13, so he's got a couple of tenths in hand to the drop zone. Aya now drops in. GoGo has gone for another attempt. And invalidates again. You just saw it there on your screen. It's very fine margins that Assassin is invalidating here. And if Assassin doesn't have any more fuel in the car for another run, that could be all she wrote for Assassin. Aya is in the pits, and unless speak and it will happen. I was about to say, unless Aya doesn't come out of the pits, he may find himself out of the session. He is back out again in a place called Louth, Skeggy. Skeggy. Where's Skeggy? Turns 2 and 3 and turn 12 I just can't hit well consistently. I either smash it or smash the gravel, says Stevens. Heard Alfa Romeo is going to sponsor Haas after they head out of F1. I have no idea. I haven't heard that. You might be right. I haven't heard it personally. So Assassin, his session is over on a 15.6 and is the time to beat. Here comes Padge, needs 4/10 and gets 4/10. Assassin is out in Q1 on his debut. What about Camper? He's under pressure. Eyes under pressure. Smaller. Greg could be under pressure here, but he is going a bit quicker through the first. Beautiful section of the track as you go down the hill and then back up through Acqua Minerale. Really is a very scenic part of the track. This, I would say, is the easiest part of the circuit, this final sector. That chicane, although it looks a bit menacing, if you can get traction sorted out and get your turning okay on the car or your setup, it should be okay. These final couple of corners, they look easier than they actually are. Greg, with a 10th improvement, goes up to a 15.1 and should be safe. Smaller next across the line, currently P14. Improves to 13th and should be safe on that. Who is going to cross the line next? Aya is just a little bit down. Padge into the pits, so Smaller and Greg are now officially safe. We've got Cod Camper and Aya out on track. Those are the two left, and Cod Camper's red light is flashing. Back of the car means he's not using any ERS. Cod Camper here could be at risk if Aya can get just 1/10 of improvement. And this will be no improvement for Cod Camper. So all eyes on Aya. Really pushing the track limits and too much in the final corner. He was a couple of tenths up through the middle. As you can see, 1/10 improvement, that was all he needed, but that final corner has just caught Aya out. You saw it through the penultimate corner, was so close to getting invalidated there. Maybe that was foreshadowing of the final corner. Joseph Hales, excited to see what I can do from the back. Home in 10 minutes. So, although Aya has qualified last, he will have a car behind him on the grid as Joseph Hales will be joining shortly. So we have it, only a handful of drivers to use the mediums and get comfortably through into Q2. Josh only 6th fastest on his best medium run. Wiggles and Snacks 9th and 10th respectively. And it's all very, very close. 8/10 separating top 14 and only 1.2 seconds separating the full 17 drivers here in Q1. Really wish I had the time to practice for this. No pace, says Cod Camper. Well, you are through to Q2. An extra few laps of practice, perhaps. Might just be what the doctor ordered for you. So I will qualify P17, and Go Assassin on his 81 debut in IRL will be in 16th. Crash out in turn 1 and head to the pub. Doesn't sound like a bad strategy, to be honest. So Q2 then. Get some tyres up. See if anyone braves the mediums in Q2. Not expecting anyone to. Certainly don't think anyone will be quick enough on the mediums to get through. And plenty of drivers out early. First of which will be Snacks. We've got the Haas of 1010 out on track. We've got a McLaren of Asmafrog. We've got the other Haas of Ross. And the other McLaren of Cod Camper. It's a Haas and McLaren sandwich there. Greg out on track. As is one of the Williams of Veloce Dragon. So some early running for some of these drivers. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Hello, Mr. Wiggles. How are you? He doesn't want any more penalty points, does he? Yeah, safe to say, our stewards have been busy season 5 so far. I think our cleanest here for incidents in total has actually been 82. That's not an actual stat, it's just a hunch. So, Snacks has free reign of the track, has a whole sector ahead of him before he reaches the next car, who is Killian in the Alfa Romeo, who he himself has plenty of track to play with. Hascar's in formation. I wonder if Ross behind 1010 will be getting a bit of a slipstream. Don't lean too far back, you might fall. I'm going to lean back further just to annoy you. So Snacks looking to upset a lot of people here. Now I say that because in the last 4 seasons we've had 4 different pole sitters. As crazy as that sounds, I'm going to hold that closer in the hope that it will be a bit more clearer. Might not make any difference. Snacks 14.2, that's the quickest time we have seen so far tonight. Asthma Frog with a 15.5. Slots into second. Here comes 10.10 and does a 15.4, so he definitely can improve. Ross does a 14.5 and slots into second. Asthma Frog does, Camper, sorry, 16.2, just behind his teammate. As things stand, Veloce is back into the pits, so has invalidated there, as you can see on your track map. Who next? Killian then. Track has gone purple in the middle sector. Let Snacks cook, certainly. Almost running wide at the final corner, keeps it clean. 14.8, so good enough for third at the moment. Greg has joined back after a disconnection. I wonder if 1010's going for another run here. No, he's not. He has invalidated, so to get a better lap time on the board, he'll need a new set of tyres and some more fuel in the car. Who then shall we watch? Let's watch George. Not bad for first run, says Snacks, I agree. Pretty good. Beautiful line into the chicane for George. Keeps it nice and tidy, doesn't run over track limits and invalidates. Beautiful last couple of corners as well, smooth, precise, using all the track. It's a 14.8, 3 milliseconds slower than Killian. Not too bad. Faster than your Q3 lap will be on Sunday. If you even get into Q3, I think you will. Avenicus, that one will not count. Crossing the track limits. And invalidating. Still 9 minutes left of session. Who went out? We had Ayahuasca in 17th, and we had Go-Go Assassin in 16th. Who both set identical times. Top 10, top 17, sorry, were only separated by 1.2 seconds, TD. Smaller Smiley, this one's invalidated as well. There's a bug going round. It's the Imola illness of track limits. Mr. Wiggles hoping he doesn't catch the bug. I have to say, Wiggles suits an Alpine. Have no idea why. It just does. Can't explain it. Oh, super close of track limits there. But this is exactly what you need to do to get a good lap time on the board. Just going on the marbles out of Aqua Minerale and just correcting a little slide through the chicane. Wouldn't have cost him an awful lot of time, but may just bug Wiggles slightly. Didn't see it because of the rubbish service. So Wiggles 14.6 and might be good enough to get him through. What about Greg then? Greg doing very well this season. I'd say it's his best season yet. His pace has been good. His consistency is always excellent. His lack of penalties from the stewards and on track with like track limits and speeding in the pit lane and drive-throughs, always been very impressive, Greg, in that respect. And he's now got the pace on the game to make some dents in the championship. I think he's currently... I need to just have a look actually. But he's certainly doing very well this season. He is P6 in the standings. He's only 32 points off of George Plaster, who is top as things stand. So I'm going to get ahead of myself and say Greg is going to fight for the title here this season, but certainly he's got a lot of people impressed so far. Veloce pops in there with a 15.3. Currently good enough for P8. 10.10. 14.1. We're getting ever closer to that track record in the league for Imola. Padge can see that his teammate is in the top 10. As Josh does a 14.2 and goes second fastest. Deflated Wee follows him across the line to go 5th. So Veloce now out of the top 10. Could find both Williams and both McLaren heading out. As Asthma Frog makes me eat my own words. 14.9 puts himself in the top 9. Good old going for Asthma Frog. What about Padge? Where can he get to on that soft compound? It's a 15.2. So it does look like a 14 will get you through. But what kind of 14 at the moment? It's a 15.0, the time to beat Venicus. Starting a lap. Needs to get this one valid. Otherwise might run the risk of putting that extra bit of pressure on his final run. Good evening, Goldilocks. How are you? Not sure if that was lag from Venicus. It looked like it was a snap, but I think it is lag. Good evening, Johnny B. Never need to apologise for being late. Join whenever you join. Currently ramping down to the end of Q2. We've got 4 minutes remaining. As you can see, times are pretty close. 1.2 separated the whole 17 in Q1. 1.2 separate 1st to 14th. Only Cog Camper 16.0 is the one that perhaps isn't quite representative of his true pace. Avenicus does a 14.6 and goes into the top 5. That is a good lap. George Plaster here possibly may need to improve. Not quite expecting to see George down in P9 after the first set of runs. But he's 6/10 up in the middle sector. Could be pushing on a 0.2 or maybe even a 0.1 to challenge for the top spot in Q2. Certainly everyone a 0.6 quicker. 0.6 or quicker, sorry. Should be safe. Not expecting the cutoff to be a 0.6. Here comes George. Will it be quickest? Yes, it will. 14.1. And still no record. But we are getting very close. I have Monsanto. What's Monsanto? Veloce out on track. Wiggles out on track. Smaller Smiley out on track. Asthma Frog has retired earlier in the session than most, just like he did in Q1. Bit of a snap to correct for Veloce out of the first couple of corners. I did not press anything. And Veloce Dragon has lagged out, which means he has been transported back to the pit lane. That's why it switched to George Blaster. And unfortunately for Veloce, when he comes back in to the session, he will not have enough time to go out for another lap. So Veloce Dragon, unfortunately, even if his lap time was quick enough, he will be heading out in Q2. What's the record? A record is a 14.082. So if we get into the 13s, we're there. But we're not quite there yet. Smaller Smiley then, starting a lap. Greg is still in the pits, and with 1 minute 18 left of the session, I don't think, there we go, that's confirmation of that retirement. He will be coming out on track again, so Greg will be out. Asthma Frog could join him. We already know Veloce, with that badly timed disconnection, is out as well. Time to beat is Asthma Frog's 14.9. Wiggles gone third fast. It's 14.2, safely through to Q3 with that time. And Smaller Smiley pushing the edge of the track limits. Pretty much matching his personal best. Only 1/100th down on his personal best time. Needs at least 3/10 in this final sector to get through to Q3. And that is a little bit of a mistake there. Wiggle of the wheel. Even though there was improvement, it's not enough, and Smaller Smiley will be out of qualifying by a miraculous final run. Padge is not pushing, and as the checker flag falls, safe to say Padge will be out as well. Veloce has rejoined to find his quali over. So really, this is basically the battle of the two McLarens. Which one is going out here? Will it be Asthma Frog or will it be Cod Camper? Only one can go out. Cod Camper needs 1.1 seconds at least. He's got 6 through the middle sector. Needs a mighty last sector here to get through into the final part of qualifying. Needs a good 7 or 8 tenths to improve his position from 15th at the very minimum. Cod Camper said Earlier on in quality, did not have too much time to practice. It is a big improvement, but it's 4 milliseconds slower than Veloce. So Asthma Frog in P10 gets through with a 14.9. 8 tenths separate the top 10. And only 1.2 separate the top 15. I'm sure we'll see more of this on Sunday night with Assist Tier 2. That is very, very close. Took too much curb on that last corner, said Cockcamper, so maybe may have been able to jump up a place or two if that final corner was better. So confirmation, George Plaster beats 10:10 in Q2. Top timing screens, but not too much to separate them at all. Top 5, less than 2 tenths separating them, and 8 tenths separates the whole top 10. Meanwhile, 1.2, as it did in Q1, separates the whole field. As we said a bit earlier on, round 7 is next week, and we are in Monaco for the best race of the season. Some exciting news we can tell you. The wonderful Goldilocks Creative and Rids, who pop into our chat every now and again, have very kindly sponsored all 3 streams next week. So for the NA tier, the 81 tier, and the 82 tier, all 3 races will be sponsored. It is a £20, I assume, gift card. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Goldilocks and Rids. To the winner of the fastest lap in the race. So if you're not having a great race, which, let's be honest, could happen at Monaco, let's be honest. Maybe towards the end of the race, put a set of soft tyres on the car. Have a go for the fastest lap, because if you get it, you will be £20 richer. So thank you very much to Goldilocks and Rids for that generosity. I know there is another sponsor from them coming later in about a month's time, I reckon. I'll tell you more about that when we're closer to the time. But certainly thank you very much for your generosity. And keep your eyes on Discord, because there will be announcement of a giveaway happening pretty soon. This is to commemorate our 250th race, which is coming up very, very soon. Tonight, in case you're wondering, we celebrate our 239th race with 3 a week. About 3 or 4 weeks' time, we will celebrate our 250th race, I believe in Austria. So there will be something happening for that. Make sure you keep your eyes in the announcements in Discord once we've got everything figured out. We're still chatting about what we can, what we want to do, what we can afford to do, that kind of stuff. Good news for Hales. He's joined the lobby before Q3 is finished. 18 strong now. Snacks, as he did in Q2, kicks off Q3 for us. We have both Haas cars pretty close to each other. 10-10 this time, leading Ross. And Mr. Wiggles in the Alpine follows suit. We've got Asthma Frog starting a new lap time as we speak, and Killian just crossing the line now. So already 6 drivers on laps. We will try to get through everyone as they come across the line. George Plaster across the line. Start a new time, and Snacks has called it quits. Deflated will come across the line to start a lap. So 10-10, over to you through these final couple of corners. Gets turned in nicely there. Beautiful poise, precision, control on the Haas car. And the yellow helmeted 10-10 goes fastest on a 14.2. Ross does a 14.6 and 4/10 off of his teammate. Wiggles does a 14.6 as well, only 2 milliseconds behind Ross. I'm sure Ross will be lording it over him in the chat, and it's just got so much closer. Killian, 1 millisecond off of Wiggles. If Killian was 4 milliseconds faster, he would be up 2 places right now. That is how close it is in the opening couple of laps. Tyres too dirty, said Snacks, so maybe got on the grass a little bit towards the end of the lap. Lost some time somewhere. Here comes George Plaster. Where's it going to be? 14.0, new quali record already, and we still have a load of other times to come. Deflated. Here he comes, and there he goes back into the pits after that invalidation at the final corner. Josh has some space now ahead of him. And let's go on board with Josh. Josh got pole position here in season number 2. Nice control through what's technically turns 2 and 3, that first chicane. Sure about anyone else in the chat, but I'll be watching that throttle and brake very closely. I need all the help I can get for Sunday. Beautifully clipped the apex, gets the throttle on nice and early, doesn't run wide, slams on the brakes through Akman and Raleigh. Extremely nicely done. Well, Josh will be extremely happy with how these first couple of sectors have gone. The hardest bits are done. Now it's just get these two 90-degree left-handers well without invalidating or going over some of the curbs too much. And he looks to have done a pretty decent job. 14.0, only 13 milliseconds off of provisional pole. Saw on board with Josh, that was a good lap, but fortunately for Josh, not quite good enough to get provisional pole here. Venicus deflated, no lap time on the board. As for Snacks, he boxed earlier because his tyres were too dirty, but is out on another lap as we speak. That was a lovely lap as well, certainly was, and vintage Josh, I have to say. FYI, game will give me a random car, so it might not be in Ferrari. Won't let me select, obviously. It should put you in a Ferrari, because it will go in order of cars from constructor order. So it should give you a Ferrari. Both Red Bulls are taken, both Mercedes are taken. So it should give you the Ferrari. Snacks goes third, 0.1. Nicely done. We're getting the very sneaky Snacks back into the league. Snacks shredded 82 a couple of seasons ago, got 11 poles in 13 races. Absolutely incredible feat. Snacks, very good qualifier. And maybe there might be another run coming for Snacks. If so, possibility perhaps of a front row start. George and Josh still in the pits, leading the way on that front row of the grid. Only 13 milliseconds between them two. If George gets pole position tonight, we will have 5 different pole sitters from all 5 different seasons in AT1 on this track. pretty much any of those top 4 at the moment could be in contention. And, well, we don't even need to talk about the battle between Ross, Wiggles and Killian. You can see it there, 3 milliseconds separating the 3 drivers. Avenicus and Deflated still awaiting their presence out on track for their final runs. 3.5 minutes left. Asperfrog, the only one out on track. Wakey, wakey, 10-10. Nicely done for Asperfrog throughout Minerali. Difficult corner to take at the best of times. 6/10 up, pretty much. On for a 0.7 as things stand. Bit more, might find himself in the top 5. Time to smash some times. Yes, I haven't even done 1 lap on Imola yet for Sunday night. It's not quite P5 for Asperfrog, but only a 10th away from P5. Not too bad there. And out on track comes Mr. Wiggles. Wiggles, no pole positions, no wins or podiums in AT1 in Imola. Will this be the race that breaks that mould? Mr. Wiggles over 20 pole positions in the league, none at Imola. George Avenicus out on track. So is Deflated. 1 minute 50 left. Those drivers in the pits will be leaving the pits as we speak. A couple more exiting the pit lane. Predictions in chat. Who's going to get this one? Could be any of the top 4, to be honest. Might even stretch down to any of the top 7. Maybe even Deflated as well. Type your predictions in chat. Can't put a poll out too soon. Come on, Mr. Wiggles, do some magic. Well, let's go on board then. Into the Italian sunset. Turns 2 and turns 3. Plants it out of 4. Beautiful control through 5 and 6 into Tozer. Beautifully done. Easy to get a snap, put the throttle on too soon. Does no such thing. Very committed, lines the car up. Nicely done. Don't think he'll gain any time from a slipstream from that Haas car there. Super close to invalidating, but judges it to perfection for Mr. Wiggles. These cars he's passing will be a distraction for him. But will he rise above that? Keeps it in bounds. Pretty nice lap from Mr. Wiggles, but how quick is it? I reckon it might be a 0.3. It's a 0.2, and Mr. Wiggles puts himself into contention for a spot on row 3. He currently has it. What about Ross? He is just starting a lap time, and he will be the last to finish a lap. So let's go on board then with our current provisional pole sitter, George Plaster. He is marginally up by 32 milliseconds in the first sector. A 10th to the good in the middle sector. We're on for a 13, chat. Pole lap 13.854 says Cog Camper. 13.999 says Stevens. If that happens, I will gift a sub. Actually, I'll gift a sub if Cog Camper gets it spot on as well. But here comes George. Needs a good last sector to cement a 13. And it's a 13.866. Only 12 milliseconds away from Cog Camper's prediction. Here across the line comes Snacks, and he boxes, so no improvement on P3. Killian across the line. to do a 0.2 and once again finds himself just behind Mr. Wiggles. Here comes Josh. It is an improvement, but it's not a 13. Just cements his spot in the top 3, and 10-10 goes provisional pole of Venicus. That is invalid across the line and will qualify P9. Deflated also invalidated and got no lap time on the board. And God Camper is 2 milliseconds off the prediction. 10-10 makes it 5 different pole sitters in 81 from each of the 5 Imola 81 races. Absolutely incredible stuff. 10-10 is on fire at the moment. So we have it, 14 milliseconds separates the top 2. 10-10 on that 13.8. George Plaster got the quali record for moments. 10-10 was like, nah mate, give it back. He got it on Tuesday. He cemented it on Thursday. 10-10 the quickest driver in Imola in our league's history. George alongside him on the front row of the grid. Josh and Snacks in 2 completely different cars make up row 2. 2 more different constructors on row 3 with Wiggles and Killian. Once again, nothing to separate them two all session. Ross and Asma on row number 4, certainly not slow at all. Avenicus and Deflated just couldn't get their lap times on in track limits tonight. God, man. I do feel for you, Cod, actually. I probably would have gifted you a sub or something if you got it spot on. Locking brake from Avenicus caused me to mess up. Oh, that's unfortunate, Snacks. Fortunately for Avenicus, that's 2 lap times ruined with 1 braking, it would seem. Exactly, Stevens. Head on for the race, and that is what we will be doing in 5 short minutes' time. I got back from work quite late today, so fortunately haven't had quite enough time to prep for feature driver tonight. We will do that next week at Monaco. I'm sure we've got plenty of time with safety cars stuff coming out in the race. We'll have plenty to talk about next week. What can we do? Let's have a look at the drivers' standings. Bear with me whilst I get them up. What's fuel around here? I have no idea. I haven't done any practice, so I couldn't tell you, fortunately. Beepity boppity boo. That's not quite how I want things to go. Not gonna lie. Doo-doo-doo. I don't know why. It's doing this. That's proper weird. Yeah, that looks proper weird. I don't know what I've done. What have I done, chat? Can anyone figure out how on earth I've messed this up so badly? That's even worse. You know what? If you want to look at the standings, !standings in the chat. It'll bring up a link. Click on that link. You can see the standings. But as things stand, George Plaster leads the way on 69 points. Deflated Wee is 4 points behind. We've got pole position. Well, it looked like George was going to get it. 10-10 beat him by around 12 milliseconds, 13 milliseconds. What do you mean, Snacks? 10-10 got it. George stole 10-10's quali record with an 18-8, and then 10-10 beat him by a hundredth. Yes, Snacks. Exclamation mark rain in the chat just to annoy Snacks. That's what happens when you make a mistake. And some more. Yes, Card. The record got beat, but 10-10 still holds it. Yes, by a couple of tenths. We have some more exciting news. Next week, you'll notice on Thursdays, I'm pretty lonely. You can tell on my stream. I sit here in my bucket chair. I lean way too far back, like Mr. Wiggle said in Quali earlier. But I will be having, potentially, a friend joining the streams. Hopefully for the rest of the season. Who knows? He may just decide to do one and stop. He may decide to do whatever. If you have been watching the 82 streams or have been involved in the Discord for a while, you'll know there's a person called Marlboro Sled. He will be joining me next week on comms for AT1. He's done comms before. I have had the pleasure of watching a clip, and he is very, very good. So that's something to look forward to next week, as well as the sponsored Monaco Grand Prix. But here we go. No formation lap, remember, for the Imola Grand Prix. It's a Haas. It has been a good start for 10-10 as he exits the first corner. There's people on the grass. Snacks, Killian, I think, going side by side there. There's more contact with Ross, and Killian has lost a couple of places. More contact with Deflated, who has passed Avenicus on the start. And this is where strategy takes centre stage. Only two as a virtual safety car, and there is a big incident, perhaps? No front wing for Joseph Hales, so immediately into the lobby and immediately having an issue. You won't mind getting those soft compounds off the car. Joseph just popping them on to try and get some positions early on in the race, but only 4 drivers opting for the medium compound out of the 18, and only a virtual safety car. So once this ends, Joseph Hales is going to have to box. It's going to be 20 odd seconds behind the pack. A virtual safety car is ending. Drivers do not want to speed and get a drive-through penalty. Just awaiting the restart of the race. You are glad I am lonely. That joke was horrific. Yes, it was, but I don't care. And a good restart for Josh. For Wiggles, sorry, on Josh. George has stayed with 10-10 pretty remarkably through the end of lap number 1. No DRS until lap 3. Cockampa and Joseph Hale's box. So I wonder if Cockampa's got a bit of damage from that incident. Everyone else, though, the other 16 drivers, are in a big old train. Wonder if we will see a powerful DRS train form here this evening. But George is the master so far this season at saving ERS and biding his time. Great start from 10-10, poor restart from him, says TD. Very astute analysis there. Josh did get a second behind George on the restart, but has endeavoured to push on this lap. I've just realised That's on. Need to turn that off. Do apologise. Don't worry, I beat you to it, TD. So Ross is past Snacks on the mediums. We'll have a little bit more grip in this stage of the race. And Wiggles has just decided to back off there. Ross have the quicker tyres, have the overspeed, and he's got P4. The so-called King of Imola, IIRL looking to get his second win at this track. His last win came in Season 2, a good year and a half ago. Asthma Frog, fantastic start, you'll notice there, up to P7 past Killian. Was already ahead of Deflated and Avenicus on quali position, but good start from Asthma Frog. Cobb Camper and Joseph Hales, as we say, making that pit stop on the end of the first lap onto a new set of tyres. Don't think Cobb Camper will go the whole race on this hard compound. He'll be hoping, as well as Joseph, for another safety car. And the top 10, nothing to separate them. You just see Avenicus there in the Mercedes. And Smaller Smiley. DRS open, down the main straight, and up into 11th, past Veloce, Greg also their company, and Smaller Smiley. Speak of the devil, 3-second time penalty on only the 4th lap of this race. We don't tend to see too many stewards race incidents here at this track in this tier. We've only had 2 incidents in the last 4 Grand Prix, so I'm expecting people to keep this relatively clean. We may get a few things like penalty removals in the steward's office after the race. Expecting to see a lot of time penalties here tonight. So far, so good. George biding his time. He has the DRS. I'm sure he could use it at any given moment. Both drivers here have DRS, and Ross this time opting to be a bit the aggressor and take the inside line. Gets that move done on Josh. Josh knows full too well how to be patient. Smaller Smiley has gone off at turn 4. And he has lost a load of places all the way down to P16 now. And a time penalty as well. Don't know if there was contact with Veloce. Was running in P11 with Smaller Smiley. So maybe something for the stewards to decide after the race. Who knows? Might have just been an unforced error, of course. Killian past Asthma. Ooh, and a bit of a nudge from Asthma Frog. Not on purpose. He's not angry, he's not frustrated, he's just missed his braking a little bit. Got a very itchy nose. I don't know if you're catching me on stream. No, I'm not picking my nose. Asthma Frog there, just running wide at the final corner. 3 warnings equals 3-second time penalty. Killian here, after his battle with Deflated and Asthma Frog, finds himself with a bit of work to do to try and get in the DRS of Snacks, who also has a little bit of work to do to try and get back in the DRS of this top 5, who are threatening at the moment to run away with this. Aya and Gogo swapping places into the first chicane of turns 2 and 3. This top 5, though, have been caught by Snacks. Top 6 now. Killian still in DRS range, safe to assume this top 10 may stay that way for a good few laps. 1 or 2 might drop out of DRS range now and again. Deflated past Killian. He's had a bad corner throughout Minerale. And Deflated has said, thank you very much, I'll take that place. And might be a difficult order for Deflated to get back in DRS range. There's the detection just before these final two corners. I don't think Deflated has the DRS here. I would love to be proved wrong. And he hasn't got it. So Deflated has been using ERS here. As finally, I'd say, a long overdue change for the leads. George Plaster takes the lead from 10-10. Interesting to see if there's any team orders here in the Haas garage. Ross's tyres will go off quicker, but as a result may find himself saying, yo, 10-10, you mind if I have a go at George for a bit? 10-10 may decide to oblige. Knowing those two, I imagine they'll stay put. Settle into this, get a rhythm going. If they fight between themselves, George may run away with this, get himself out of DRS range and start to put on the pressure. Avenicus, the first of our three debutants here tonight with a time penalty. Easily done. Currently running up there in the top 10. And our second debutant, Gogo Assassin. 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings for track limits. Lap number 8. And a nice battle forming here. Deflated is really losing out. Oh, and Asthma Frog keeps it out of the barrier nicely, but that spin, snap of oversteer out of turn 4, had to slam on the brakes and just drops to 12th. Still, his quest of points not over by any stretch of the imagination, but may need a bit of help from a safety car or a mistake from someone ahead. I didn't imagine how many time penalties there's going to be on Sunday. You never know. Sometimes all you got to do is go into a race and go, right, let's just keep it clean every single lap. Let's get every corner. Oh, Snacks spinning. Lap number 8 is the unfortunate lap for two drivers, and there goes Asthma Frog, benefiting from an aforementioned mistake. I think he's let Snacks back past. He might have got an illegal overtake. That's unfortunate if he has. But now, Veloce and Greg running in the points, and Snacks has let Asthma back past. We've got some very courteous drivers out there tonight. Oh, Snacks indeed. But still, Snacks some points on offer for him. Killian and Deflated have swapped places in all of that kerfuffle with the spinning Snacks and Asthma. And that is a big snap of oversteer out of Minerale for Killian. These three are dropping back quite considerably from this top 5. George's pace has been good, it's been consistent, and the 4 drivers behind him are reaping the benefits from being in DRS range. You can see Ross's red light there is flashing at the back of the car. It's got very little energy left, and maybe his tyres are going to start to go off in the next few moments as 10-10 decides that now is the time to retake the lead. What was the slowest time to get into Q3? 15.9. No, 14.9. Apologies. 14.9.
Yeah, 14.9. Ross, Aqua Minerale, claims another victim. And not only that, but these top two, their pace has been impeccable so far. 1010's move on George just created a bit of gap on track between George and Ross. Obviously, if 1010 was behind George, then Ross would obviously have DRS on 1010. But the fact that 1010 went for the overtake on lap number 10, George then kept with him, meant that Ross lost some valuable tenths, which has inevitably cost him to lose DRS here. And Josh could be the one to pick the bones of IIRL J. Avenicus pits onto a set of medium compound tyres. Will he take them 22 laps until the end of this race, I wonder? Is this going to be a two-stop strat? Has he been forced to box for damage? Who knows? Snacks back into the top 10 after that pit stop from Avenicus. Joseph Hale's time penalty, running down in 15th, already boxed on lap 1. Here comes George, retaking the lead. These two using DRS very strategically, it would seem. Every couple of laps, just swap the order, try and force the other one into making a mistake, getting a warning, track limits, or trying to force the other one to go so quick that they lose a bit of consistency. You can see George is matching his personal best through the first sector, even on 11 lap old hard tyres. That is how good the pace has been from George and 1010 tonight. It's getting quite dark in my room. Might turn a light on. Avenicus, Pascal Camper on the main straight. Go Assassin. Recently pitted, now fastest lap of the race as Snacks gets a time penalty. Down there in P10 at the moment. Padge doing well to stick with Asthma Frog, who gets 3-second time penalty, and so does Greg. So lap 12 has been a bad one for track limits. Lap 8 was a bad one for spins. As here comes 1010 retaking the lead again. As we say, these two, they know what they're doing. They're using each other's DRS and the pace advantage they have to gain from these three. At the moment, one of these three will get on the podium, but who will it be? At the moment, it's going to be Josh. Wiggles definitely in that fight. Ross, with that time penalty, might need to rely on someone else getting a penalty as well. Lap number 13. Aya pits from 13th place. As Avenicus sets a new fastest lap of the race, Aya is on to soft compound tyres. So definitely a two-stop for Aya. Assassin has seen his fastest lap been beaten and has called it quits. Possibly not because of that reason, but Assassin's just called it quits from this session. Interesting to see how Assassin fits into our group, what kind of pace he'll be. Hard to judge based on one qualifying session and 13 laps of an Imola Grand Prix, as Wiggles gets a time penalty. He boxes as well for mediums. Deflated and Killian were battling for race wins last season. At the moment, they're battling for 5th place. how the turns have tabled. Padge then P11, number 8 on the Williams, number 1 in our hearts. Well respected manager of the league by everyone here. Yellow flags as we have a spinning smaller Smiley, our season 3 race winner in AT1 at Imola, not having the best evening so far tonight. Early for the mediums. I guess mead is alright to say in this situation. Bit early for the meads, is it? Who knows? Certainly Mr. Wiggles will have a monumental undercut opportunity. Ross has just boxed 4 hard compound tyres. No doubt they will go to the end of the Grand Prix. Pretty routine stop, to be honest, with the strategy he has. Smaller Smiley has crashed at IIRL, and that is our second safety car of the night. This is a full safety car, and that is horrendous timing for Wiggles, Ross, Asthma Frog, who have all boxed in the last 2 laps. All of these top 9 are gonna box this lap. I'd be incredibly surprised if all of these don't box. Let's just put it that way. And they're going to lose less time in this pit stop because of the safety car conditions. And just like we've seen multiple times this season, those Red Bulls are going to be double stacking. Deflated is 7 seconds behind, which means he may not actually lose time in this double stack. And no surprise to see everyone into the pits. It'll be mediums for those currently on the hard compound. Greg will be the only one of this top 9 to box onto the hard compound. Ooh, and a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. This, of course, the safety car brings the likes of Avenicus, Asma Kokampa, Joseph Hales, Aya, all back into the fray. Should be a big enough gap this time, to be fair. I think you are probably right. Deflated comes out of the pits behind Killian. Uh, 10-10 has lost the place to Josh, sorry. 10-10 was P2 behind George, but Josh was in P3. So Josh has got 10-10 in the pit lane. Wiggles and Ross with that undercut opportunity, it was powerful enough that they managed to stay 4th and 5th. Killian and Deflated have switched places as well in the pit lane. So both 2 drivers here losing out in the pit lane. Greg, that 5-second penalty will remain for the rest of the race, or at least until his next pit stop in this Grand Prix. So that's going to be quite a big handicap from this point on. May not end up scoring points or too many points at the end of this race. If Veloce can keep it clean here and stay with the likes of Killian, Deflated, might find himself ahead of Wiggles and Ross on time penalties. Potential for a top 6 finish for Veloce on his debut. Snacks and Asper Frog, those time penalties will come back to bite them potentially. Padge could be on for some points here tonight if he can stay close enough to the 2 drivers ahead of him. And as we said, Avenicus, Cod, Joseph, Aya, all brought back into the race with this safety car. Lap number 16. Halfway through the Grand Prix. It's been... I don't want to say underwhelming, because I don't think it's been a bad race. I think there's been plenty of action, but it's pretty much been a few gaps forming, a few DRS trains forming as well. Greg boxes now to get rid of that 5-second penalty and put on a new set of medium compound tyres. That is actually really smart. So here is the penalty situation. Asthma Frog, the only one with multiple excuse me, track limit warnings and penalties with 6 seconds. Wiggles, Ross, Snacks, Avenicus, Joseph and Greg all with 3. And the amount of stops there. Positions gained. Deflated's up 3. But to be honest, he probably shouldn't have qualified P10. Just didn't quite get that valid lap time on the board in the end in Q3. Veloce, impressive race so far. Up into the top 8 now. With Greg serving his 5-second penalty in the pits, he's now jumped up into 8th place. And is up 6 places. IA is close enough to the back of the pack. That is a very, very, very late call from the safety car. Will George be prepared enough? You can overtake on the start-finish line. So George doesn't want to wait too long to put the power down. Otherwise, 10-10 will just say, well, Josh will just say, I'm going to time this perfectly so I get ahead of you. Here comes Ross on the back of his friend and rival Mr. Wiggles. Great defence from Killian, absolutely phenomenal. Veloce's getting his nose in this battle as well, but Snacks is there to pick the bones and catapults himself into 8th place. Nice reactions and beautiful driving there from Snacks. Vanicus, boards all over the place. Drivers off track. That's off track from Vanicus as Padge has dropped all the way down to 16th on this restart. Not been Padge's restart. Sure, he's had better ones in his time. Joseph Hales has been brought right back into this, even with that time penalty. He's now fighting potentially for points in this Grand Prix rather than completing laps 30 seconds behind the pack. Out in front, George Plaster leads Josh. 10-10 on the podium as things stand. Wiggles and Ross in 4th and 5th respectively, but with 3-second time penalties apiece. Killian and Deflated could be beneficiaries of those penalties, who currently run P6 and P7. Snacks up into 8th, past Veloce Dragon on the previous lap, but Veloce will get right back past with the time penalties. And 10-10, the latest high-running individual in this Grand Prix to get a 3-second time penalty for multiple limits for track warnings. Multiple warnings for track limits is what I meant to say. Someone's definitely going to clip that and force me to listen back to it multiple times this season. Asma rounds out the top 10, but in quite an intense battle here with Joseph, who did not qualify, started in 18th place. Only the 2 retirements. Assassin retired in the pits. His DRS is now enabled. Lap 3 after a safety car restart, it is enabled again. They won't get it down this big main straight, but they will get it next lap around on the main straight. Two Mercedes battling. I will be hoping he can stay with his teammate Avenicus here, battling with Greg and Cog Camper. I could jump up to as high as 13th in this current battle. Padge. I wonder if he's got some damage. He's losing a bit of time here. No visual damage on the car. Maybe just struggling on those medium compounds. And this is where we're going to see DRS for the first time after this safety car restart. Obviously George won't have it being out in the lead. He's got no one in front of him to give him DRS, but the whole train, just like we saw in the opening 7 or 8 laps of this Grand Prix tonight, spotting a bit of a train form. We've seen what kind of DRS strategy 1010 and George have been adapting in this Grand Prix so far. What's Josh going to do? Red light flashing. He's been forced to use a lot of energy here to try and stay with George. I wonder if George has natural pace or whether he's been using his battery to try and get a gap. Io, we're talking about how he could capitalise on his teammates' time penalties. He's got one himself. 3 seconds now will be added to his final race finishing time. Ross, slower tyre for the time being on those hard compound, the only one of the top 8 to be on those white marked hard tyres, but doesn't seem to be struggling at all. And later on in this race, around lap 26, 27, those hard compounds are going to come back to him, and you just saw there out of the penultimate corner running a tiny bit wide, a fraction wide, and getting his 3rd warning. That means a penalty for Ross, now upgraded to 6 seconds. I'm going to turn the light on. It's got very dark very quickly. That's better. George then leads the championship and leads this Grand Prix with 11 laps remaining, including the one they're on. Bit wide from Wiggles, would have got a warning for that. Keeps the position ahead of Ross. Some very good driving on display. We're going to chop back with them when something happens. Joseph Hales has made his way up into the top 9 now. Needs to build a gap on Veloce. Hello, Abombassa. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Good evening. Welcome to IRL. Just caught Ross making a move past Wiggles for 4th place. Killian and Deflated looking on very enthusiastically behind. They'll need to brake a little bit earlier to avoid running into the car ahead. I'm sure their eyes will be firmly on that P4 finish, with those time penalties starting to add up in the top 8, top 10. The end of this race is going to be very interesting. A safety car in the middle of this race from Smaller Smiley's DNF has caused a bit of a reset on the strategy. Everyone pretty much onto the hard or medium compound for the rest of the race. So this is all about management of ERS, as Mr. Wiggles has had a bit of a poor corner and I think it's just backed off to let these guys through. Killian now up into 5th. His top 3 sitting pretty for the podium. Killian needs to be within 3 seconds of 10-10 to get that podium away, and he's currently right on the cusp. Mr. Wiggles has retired in the pit lane, so no safety car for that. Big battle here. Joseph slightly off track, and he's rejoined the track, and unfortunately for Veloce, he's had nowhere to go, and he's lost 3-4 places because of that. Veloce's been done a bit dirty there. Off the track in the background is Avenicus. Not too sure what happened there. We're a bit too far ahead. Camper here has picked the bones. Hales, another time penalty. And it's very impressive that these drivers haven't had any more incidents than they've had being this close together on track. Just shows the amount of trust and respect that these guys have. Oh, Camper, huge mistake. He's off the track. There's contact with Veloce. Again, not too sure what you think of that at home. I'll let you make your mind up watching it. But Camper was running up in 9th place there and looked for a top 8 finish, and now finds himself running out of the points. Veloce could be the one to capitalise on all of these time penalties. Avenicus has retired in the pit lane after that collision, possibly with his teammate earlier on lap 24. And into the barrier goes Greg in the AlphaTauri. Still in the race. I don't think he has too much damage, if any at all, but heartbreak for Greg. Unforced error, it would seem. And mistakes are creeping in. Couple bad rejoins there. It looked like it, but I wasn't fully watching. Your eyes have to be all over the place when you're streaming. Asma right on the back of Joseph Hales now. Let's bring up the penalties, because this could be crucial for some of these people battling with each other. For instance, we know Joseph and Asma are going to be losing places with time penalties, but whichever one of these two finish ahead of each other, that's effectively a free position. So Joseph and Asma need to battle for track position here. Veloce just needs to make sure that he keeps it clean, doesn't get in any more incidents. After it definitely looked like Joseph came back on track and gave Veloce no room. We'll have to wait and see if Veloce decides to send something into the stewards. Top 3 breaking away. Then we got a battle of 4. Ross, Killian, Wee, Snacks. And then there's this fight for the final points of the session. Still a chance Camper here could get some points. I know he's maybe about 3 seconds away from Asma Frog, but if he can stay close to Aya, Asma and Joseph, Camper could get P10 here. Veloce should be on for a P9 finish, but anything can happen in these remaining 5 laps. Up ahead on track, we've got Killian making the move up into 4th. Joseph and Asma battling. Nature of this track, you can go side by side, you can fight with other people, you can make those moves. It's also a track where there's only one DRS zone, which in the modern time I guess is a bit rare. Most tracks have more than one DRS zone, so there's only one real overtaking opportunity down into turn 2. But still, some of these drivers are finding other corners in which to make their moves. Camper is past Aya now, and his sights will be firmly set on catching Veloce and getting some more places. And just noticed the battle out in front. 1010 is past Josh. up into P2 now. That 3-second time penalty is probably just trying to force the issue here. He's trying to force these two into getting a time penalty, into making a mistake. Maybe 10-10 has spent the last 10 laps building up his ERS, managing it so that he can deploy it in these final 4 laps to try and maybe go for a shock win with that time penalty. Greg has boxed for soft compound tyres and has got the fastest lap of the race. He won't get a point for it being out of the top 10. Need to double check the race record actually. Don't think that's going to get beaten tonight. Race record is a 15.6 in this league. Greg did a 16 point something. Snacks looking close to deflated. Snacks with time penalties. Deflated with none. Ooh, snap. A snap for Wee. And after that snap, Snacks is passed. He's snapped up P6. How many more words sounding like snap can I think of? Deflated needs to make sure here that he doesn't get any penalties. He's due to jump up to P5 past Ross and IIRL Snacks, but he's been off the track a couple of times this lap and he needs to make sure that doesn't do it anymore, and that is exactly the reason. Now he needs to be within 3 seconds of Ross, and as things stand, well, it's very close. It's 2.8. So now Deflated has put all of this unnecessary pressure on him and perhaps some overdriving going on in the kart. He's got to snap out the final corner, and if he's not careful, he may even lose that opportunity to pass Ross. Ross has passed Killian, 2 laps remaining. Josh has not stayed in the DRS of the top 2, which means it could just be Josh settling for P2 in this Grand Prix. George has looked mighty this season. In Bahrain, he only got P10, but he was riding up there with the front runners until a late spin in the Grand Prix set him back to P10. He then won back-to-back races in Saudi Arabia and Australia for rounds 2 and 3. He missed Baku, which was a sprint race, so he missed a good opportunity for some points. But second place last week in Miami brought him back on top of the driving standings, and this could be his 3rd race win of the season, which will cement a pretty comfortable lead at the top of the championship. His closest rival, Deflated, is only down in 7th place and may only get P5 or P6 or P5 at best in this Grand Prix. George right now would be licking his lips, well, if he wasn't defending so hard from 10-10. 2 laps remaining. Remember, next week we have a huge round. Round 7, we are in Monaco. Many things on the line. Points, bragging rights, fame, glory, you name it, and a £20 gift card up for grabs. Golden Ox and Rids very kindly sponsoring our 3 races next week, as we have a spinner in Aya in Tosa, turn 7. If you get the fastest lap next week in any of the 3 races, you will help yourself to £20. Thank you very much, Goldilocks and Rids, for that sponsor. Make sure to join us next week for Monaco. Join us on Sunday night for Assist Tier 2's coverage of the Imola Grand Prix. The 82 championship leader Felix has been promoted to AT1. It's a long story. So there is a spot on offer for someone to take that championship by the scruff of the neck and go, right, I'm gonna take this on now. I'm gonna be the one to beat. Join us on Sunday to find out who that someone will be. I would say it'd be me, but I've turned ABS off, so I'm slow. Final lap of the race, and this is basically just a victory lap for George, unless he miraculously gets a 3-second time penalty in this final sector, and 10-10 sniffs an opportunity and goes for a ridiculous dive bomb into the final corner. Never say never, of course, but certainly George looks like he has been managing those track limit warnings. Where others have failed, George has prevailed. And George Plaster takes his third race win of the season in just 5 races that he has attended. 10-10 will be on the podium, but will have to settle for P3 as Josh gets ahead on time penalties. Killian P4, Ross P5, deflated with that late time penalty, only gets 6th and falls behind George in the standings. Veloce on his debut, fantastic result in P number 8. Joseph will take 10th after Cod Camper crosses the line and jumps Joseph and Asma. His teammate loses out on any points. Cod Camper keeping it clean there. Good, solid strategy from him. Snacks finished P7. Don't know if I mentioned that. Padge had a poor restart, but brought it back with some good pace towards the end of that last stint. Io, with no front wing, comes across the line to finish in unlucky P13. And Greg, it's just not quite been the race for him tonight. He's been incredible all season so far, but everyone is allowed an off day, I guess, every now and again. GG, says Cod Camper. Congrats on some points. Well done, mate. No time penalties. That's what you want to see. But George Plaster has been the one to step up. Josh LFC has won the past 2 AT1 championships, winning most of the races, but he has failed to win a race all season. It's possibly been the biggest shock this season so far, as Josh's perhaps run of dominance is coming to an end, and maybe the new guard are taking over. George, with 43 minutes and 56 seconds on the clock, takes the full 25 points here in Imola. Josh doing his part with his 4th podium of the season in 6 races. Trying to quickly work out. No, Deflated will keep 2nd place in the championship. Josh will be 1 point behind Deflated, and 10-10 will be a further 3 points back. So at the moment, George Plaster is leading the way in the championship pretty comfortably after just 6 rounds. 10-10. Josh 10-10 and Deflated in close pursuit. Well, driver of the day is a tricky one. Usually I like to give it to someone who hasn't really put a foot wrong, but I think there was only one driver tonight who hasn't put a foot wrong, and that person is George. And as easy as it is to give driver of the day to the winner of the race, I'm going to give 2 drivers of the day. I'm going to give driver of the day to George, and I'm going to give driver of the day to Veloce Dragon. It's never easy coming into a brand new league and doing impressive driving, but I think Veloce has proved that he fits into this tier pretty well. Maybe could have qualified better, but who knows? We don't know. But certainly up 6 places in the race, P8 finish on his debut, something to celebrate. So congratulations, Veloce and George, both drivers of the day tonight. Special mentions, we'll get them out in the Discord after the race. Yeah, Veloce, very impressed, mate. Very impressed. Congrats. And I don't mean that patronisingly, because some of these drivers in this league are true aliens, to be honest. So the fact that you're competing with them and getting some points in this tier speaks volumes to your driving. So congratulations for that P8 finish on your debut. You are joint driver of the day with George Plaster, so hope you enjoy that, mate. Yeah, as we said, Sunday night we got assist tier 2 in Imola, and as we say, someone needs to step up to that title challenge now that Felix has been promoted. So who's going to do that? Well, join us and find out. And next week, sponsored Monaco Streams, £20 Amazon gift card or whatever it is, to the winner of the fastest lap. So make sure to join to the very end of our races next week. They're going to be important. Those final laps of people going for the fastest lap is going to be, I'm sure, both hilarious and entertaining. Thank you to everyone who's been in the chat. Let's go. You won't be saying that on Sunday, mate. I'll be spinning probably, or locking my brakes. Yeah, join us on Sunday for 82. Join us next week, all 3 races next Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday respectively. Have a good one, snacks, and yeah, we will see you on Sunday night for Assist Tier 2.